Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today I'm going to be talking all about my top 24 polishes from 2024. If you're familiar with my channel, you know that I love talking about my favorites and we got a lot of new polishes last year, so I had a hard time narrowing it down to a nice little top 5 or top 10. I decided to just fully commit to my top 24. So without further ado, let me just show you my favorites. I of course am starting with none other than ILNP's Flower Child, which won my and your award for the polish of the year. I don't know how many of you guys saw, but ILNP actually left a comment on my video recently and I just thought it was so cool. But anyway, this beauty came out in last year's Wildflowers collection for spring, and it is a gorgeous, cool-toned pink jelly base just packed with electric blue shimmer and holographic sparkle. This is sheer enough that I've seen people use it as a topper, but I personally love building it up in 3 coats and it is just so glowy. I love that this has a brighter leaning blue shimmer, but it does shift to this cobalt or indigo kind of color in more extreme lighting, which is also beautiful. Next I have Feed Me Treats from Cracked. This actually came out in their Valentine's Day collection last year, and it is a sweet, almost cotton candy colored crelly base with a light blue shimmer. I want to say this almost has a soft pearlescent or satin kind of finish. Maybe it's just because it dries down in this like semi-matte sort of finish, but it is just so pretty. I personally think this one looks best built up in 3 coats and obviously with a glossy top coat. It is just so sweet, so cute, and it was hard to capture, but this one also had a pinky purple color shift in the shimmer. Okay, we have a little bit of a theme with these first couple of polishes, but this next shade is Polish for Days Lush, which came out in their Vernal Equinox collection for spring, and it is this absolutely breathtakingly gorgeous icy lavender base with this super strong aqua to minty cyan kind of shifting shimmer that also shifts to like a cobalt or indigo color in more extreme lighting. This is such a beauty. I feel like I just did not give it enough love last year or recognition, but it is just one of those super magical, ethereal kind of shades. Definitely could fit into my fairy core lineup. Next I have Lurid Lacquer's Nettle and Briar, which I would call a soft seafoam jade green jelly crelly kind of finish. It is so beautiful. This was one that I thought that I regretted at first because I kind of had some similar shades to it, but I ended up loving this one the most. There's something about the specific base color that I think is just so pretty and so flattering. The formula on this is super gorgeous, where it's very even coverage. Even on the first coat, it's just a little sheer, just like other shimmers, but it does build up really beautifully in just 2 coats, where I definitely would consider it passable, especially on my shorter nail length. If anything, I just wish the shimmer color was like reversed because I love how the yellowy orange looks against the base. Next up I have Rogue Lacquer's Emma, which was from the Ostentatious collection in the spring, which if you watched my nail polish awards video, that won my favorite spring collection of 2024. It featured this new chrome kind of shimmer formula that is so intense and generally more opaque than the previous shimmers, which hopefully you can tell. I just thought this collection was so light and ethereal, totally giving like fairy vibes. I'm always a sucker for a gold and pink color combination, and I especially love that the shimmer in this shifts to this minty cyan color. Next, I have the first cream on my list. This is ILNP's Butterflies, which came out in their Valentine's Day trio last year. This has this playful lilac kind of color with a really great formula. I was so impressed with the coverage on this because it's such a light pastel, and usually those can be very chalky or just too thin and streaky. I think this is a solid 2-coater, at least it is on me, but either way, it is so gorgeous. I just love the specific shade of purple for the spring. Next I have Cracked Polish's Banana Powder from their makeup collection in the spring. I feel like I'm one of the few people left who still loves a cute pastel yellow cream, and this one is my newest favorite. For being a pastel yellow, this one has such an impeccable formula. Not that it's a one coater by any means, but it just has such great coverage on the first coat alone, and I would again call this a solid 2-coater on me. The formula more than anything is just so impressive, but I love the color too. It is so cute. Then I have Mooncat's Witch Hazel, which came out in the Fallen collection. This was love at first sight for me. I feel like just the polish in the bottle alone looks like a little potion of nectar. It is just so magical. I just would love to have this displayed on like a shelf. It's just that pretty. But I do also think it's so pretty on the nails as well. It has a really delicate peachy jelly kind of base color that is packed with this golden shimmer. It is just so magical, so glowy. I have another shade from the Fallen collection. This is Mooncat's After the Rain. This was another immediate favorite. My heart fluttered when I first saw this color. It's a super beautiful, soft, periwinkle jelly kind of base with this really vibrant reddish orange kind of shimmer that also shifts to this peachy, yellowy color in more extreme lighting. I just absolutely love the color. I love the vibes because even with the name, it just invokes this beautiful picture in my head where even though this was released in the fall, it gives me total spring renewal vibes, which I really love. Then I have another shade from the Ostentatious collection from Rogue Lacquer. This one is called Persuasion. And I feel like it's kind of a chameleon color because to me, the bottle looked more blue, but on the nail, it leans a little bit more periwinkle. But either way, it has this super gorgeous gold to green and cyan shifting shimmer, very similar to the shimmer color shift in Emma. I actually think they might be the same, if not they're very, very similar, but I just had to also include this one because there's something about the periwinkle base that just really gets to me. Periwinkle is easily one of my favorite colors, obviously after pink. I just find that this one is so gorgeous. The only downside is that it is a stainer. This next polish should not be a surprise because I just could not shut up about it. This is ILNP's Pink Slush from their watercolor collection. I had been begging for a warm pink toned jelly and ILNP answered. I absolutely love this shade. It is like the warm toned pink jelly of my dreams. Just so flattering. I think it's kind of like a guava color, which, you know, I'm not even the biggest fan of that fruit, but I would drink this polish. Like most jellies, this has a super juicy finish that looks so good, especially in 3 coats. This next polish was a Polish Pickup exclusive shade, so I'm sorry about that, but I had to include it. It is Kathleen & Co.'s Follow Your Dreams. I think I would describe this as like a bright, magenta-leaning, hot pink base with a fiery gold shimmer. It is absolutely breathtaking. Like, remember what I mentioned before about gold and pink? This is basically the summer version because it's just turned up and it is so good. I had actually done a full hand swatch of this back in the summer when I first got it in the mail and I just could not stop staring at my nails. I hope that this comes back for Rewind. Up next, I have ILNP's Flashing Lights, which came out in the Electric Summer collection, which was my favorite release of the summer this past year, and I know it was for a lot of you too. This lineup featured these really brightly colored magnetics that were just so fun and colorful. They had these contrasting shimmers, and they all had this like whitened silver magnetic pigment too. So it was just super dimensional, just so shifty. A lot of the the colors in this collection were also very similar to like previous bestsellers, I guess. Like there was a fairy dust version. This color specifically is very similar to their shade Fake Date, which is a shimmer from a couple of summers ago, and that was one of my favorite shimmers from them, so I had to include this polish, which is the magnetic version. I normally do love the velvet effect with magnetics, but I guess because of this finish in particular, I think it just looks especially cool with the cat eye. But in certain angles with the velvet effect, you really see that flash of that silvery white kind of shimmer, and it is just so cool. I just cannot stress enough how amazing these magnetics are from this whole collection. The next polish I have is Holo Taco's Sour Note, which was from the Rock Candy collection that launched, I think, in early summer or late spring. This was their rainbow release of the year that was in a crushed holographic formula that also featured these contrasting shimmers, which were very divisive. I don't hate the crushed holo shimmer formula, but they're definitely not as strong as just other shimmers on the market. So while the shimmer doesn't really do much for me, the base color is where this really shines. I just am so in love with the shade of green. It honestly took me by surprise because I just normally don't go for greens like this, but I just thought this one was so fun and so perfect for summer. And if anything, going back to the shimmer, I actually love that it shifts to yellow in extreme light. Next, I have another green. This is Mooncat's Serpents of Eden from the Pandora Unboxed collection. This is just a stunning, strong, intense green shimmer kind of polish. It just looks so cool. There's not much more to it. I mean, the shimmer finish is rather simple. There's no hollow or anything like that, but there's just something about this specific color that does something to my brain, apparently, where it basically was another shade that just took me by surprise with how much I actually loved wearing it. This also has incredible coverage. It's pretty much opaque on two coats, at least for me, and I also love that the shimmer shifts to teal in extreme light. Speaking of teals, this next polish is Mooncat's Maelstrom, which is from the Songs of Sirens collection. This one has a dark teal blue jelly base that is packed with these iridescent flakies and this dainty hollow micro glitter. It is absolutely breathtaking. Because it has so many flakies, I personally can just wear this in two coats and I find it has enough coverage for me, but you could always do a third coat if you want to deepen the color even more. I think this is one of those shades you can just absolutely get lost in, like a siren is just calling your name. I don't think I mentioned it, but the iridescent flakies are more of a yellowy green head on, but they also shift to teal in extreme light. We're back with another cream. This is Holo Taco's Headhunter from the Dark Academia collection. This is the perfect hunter green cream, especially for this aesthetic. No surprise it has an impeccable formula where bonus points for me, it's a one coater. I just cannot recommend this shade enough, especially if you're a green lover. And the last cream on my list is Holo Taco's Ginger Snatched. This one was from the Cookies and Cremes bundle earlier in the spring. I generally really like that collection. Maybe, you know, an unpopular opinion, but it's very much up my alley. But this shade in particular was such a standout because I just found it to be so unique. It has this warm cinnamon brown kind of color with a beautiful, flawless formula. It wasn't exactly a one coater, but I actually liked how it looked on one coat because I feel like you could see a little bit more warmth. Back to the specialty finishes, this next one is Ethereal Lacquer's Mine All Mine, which I think was from the Vamp collection. This one has a soft, mauve-y, chocolate brown kind of jelly base with a cozy amber shimmer. It might not look super special on the first coat, but once it's built up, you really see the magic. This color just made me swoon. I remember gasping when I first saw like swatch photos of this shade, and even just doing the first swipe alone, it is just such a special color. The next shade I have is Mooncat's Freshly Bitten. This was from the Seasons of Persephone collection, which was one of my favorite collections of the year. My top favorite from Mooncat. Absolutely adored the whole lineup, but this shade in particular just stood out to me. It's like a juicy pomegranate base color with a strong purple shimmer that also shifts to red. If you're familiar with my channel and my taste, you know that I am such a sucker for any kind of duo or multi-chrome that shifts to red in extreme angles. I find this one just so dark and seductive. It really invokes this mouth-watering feeling that just ties into the name perfectly. This next shade is Holo Taco's I'm Rover It from the I Need Space collection. So look, I know this whole video is me sharing my favorites from the year, but I would say that this is my second favorite polish from 2024. I know it's such a complete opposite vibe, but it is right after ILNP's Flower Child for me. It is just that good. It's like this molten brick red base with a fiery shimmer and a hollow flaky. I love this formula or finish from Holo Taco and would love to see more of it, but this color specifically is like the epitome of the warmth I was feeling for fall last year. The next shade I have is ILNP's Pyro, which was from their Coven collection for Halloween. So this was another surprise kind of favorite for me because when I first saw this, I just wasn't thinking I would like it, but actually trying it on, I was just so in love with how it looked. It kind of has this blue-toned, smoky gray jelly base packed with another fiery shimmer that goes from orange head-on to yellow in more extreme lighting. I mean, I think the base color alone is very unique to my collection, but just this color combination, it's so unique, so cool, just absolutely in love with this shade. The second to last shade that I have is Cracked Polish's Fight, which I believe was their very first charity polish. This one is an absolutely pigmented, mesmerizing, dark teal base with a strong green shimmer. It's kind of similar in color to Mooncat's Maelstrom, but I would say that this is a lot darker and obviously has a shimmer kind of finish instead of a flaky, but it is just so alluring. Like, I get lost in shades like this. Obviously, I feel like on camera it's looking a little darker than it is in real life, where it is dark but you can still kind of tell that it's teal, and this shimmer also shifts to teal in extreme lighting, which obviously I'm a sucker for. And my last favorite from 2024 is Cracked Polish's Situationship. This one actually came out in the Valentine's Day collection, so it was one of the first releases of the year. And if you remember, it is from the same collection as Feed Me Treats, which was another 180. I loved the duality of this lineup, and this one was obviously my favorite from the darker shades. It's kind of this blackened, plummy red base with a red shimmer. It is just so vampy, so seductive, and with a great name too, or at least it's very fitting. Obviously, situationships aren't great. I don't think this is exactly a multi or just duochrome kind of shimmer, but the red shimmer really pops in more extreme lighting. So that wraps up my top 24 polishes from 2024. As always, I would love to know what you think of my top favorites, if we have any in common. Of course, I'd love to know what some of your top polishes from 2024 were, whether they were a top 3 or 5 or whatever. I just would love to know what some of the standouts were for you, because obviously there are just so many great ones. And I'm sure a lot of the picks on my list are not surprising if you're familiar with like my taste, where I'm gonna have a lot of pinks and shimmery kind of shades, but I was pretty surprised to see how many greens I had this year. If you remember from my Black Friday haul video a couple of weeks ago, I had picked up a lot of greens then too, so I don't know, I'm just apparently really loving greens. But I think overall my lineup is pretty well balanced between lighter shades and darker shades. But if anything, I did notice that I don't really have any like reds on my list, which is kind of a shame because I thought there were so many beautiful reds that came out. Like, some of my top favorites were 23 Flavors from Cracked Polish or Mooncat's The Arsonist. So I guess those are like honorable mentions, but I couldn't really just swap out one of my shades for the reds, because as I've talked about before, red is one of those weird colors for me where like I love it, but I just rarely wear it. So maybe that can be a resolution for 2025, is to just wear more reds because they are so beautiful. But yeah, let me know if you have any resolutions for this coming year or what you're excited to see from nail polish brands, because while I definitely do get excited seeing like new collections because they can just sometimes be so inspired, I feel like I am also getting really fatigued with like the constant new releases. I wish there was a way that we can just like slow down the release schedule, but also like cycle the releases in a way where, you know, every couple of weeks we are getting something new, but it's always like a different brand. So that way we're not bombarded by like 15 brands launching on the same weekend or something, because that can be so overwhelming. But you'll have to let me know your thoughts down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.